Yeah, he said, I thought they would be done, but they're going for longer.
All right, you want to get going?
Yeah.
I know we already did introductions, but I maybe ask Janet to maybe just give a brief history on some of what she's been involved in through her career with this type of work. So I don't know if you give a 5-minute overview.
I might bore people if I give that long.
A couple minutes.
I started out my career in economic development up in Staples, so not far from here. And then went to community development in Morrison County. I was the first staff person there when interest rates were 20% and unemployment was 10. By the time I left, about 7 years later, we had $1 million in assets in our revolving loan fund and would put back all the manufacturing employment and built about 90,000 square feet up in Motley and another 90 on the north side where United Mailing is located. I went in the St. Cloud Area Economic Development Partnership and the St. Cloud Downtown Development Corporation. And that was the era when the 2 banks were built on 9th, the Civic Center, the Radisson, the Skyways, the transit station that Mayor Ringsmuth wanted next to Herberger's instead of where it ended up. One of the biggest political controversies, can you imagine, the transit station. And then I led a 1,600-member chamber in Texas. And then I moved back for elderly parent time and established my consulting business. I've done business in 10 states, mostly Minnesota and Wisconsin. Thank goodness, since air service got to be such a pain. And I do economic development strategies. I do some specific area work, so commercial corridor revitalization or downtown revitalization. I've just been working on the comprehensive plan for Edina, and that's had me meeting a lot of interesting people associated with Southdale and 50th and France, and markets that are different than this, but interesting conversations nonetheless about the transition in the retail sector and what to put back in when retail goes away, and how to have a mix that is dynamic
And they have a very vocal community.
You are psychic.
No, I'm best friends with their clerk that just retired in November, and their city council meetings start at 6, and she'd get home at 1 to 2 in the morning because of their public hearings.
It is so true. It is.
Every single council meeting, that public
That's what?
in Edina,
Edina.
Yeah.
the public is extremely involved.
There are lots of experts.
So where do you live now?
Roseville. And I'm working different projects. That's just one where I'm most involved in the retail dimension of things right now. Let's see. So I do understand rural communities, having lived in Todd County for a number of years and in the St. Cloud area also. So we had a handful of questions that we wanted to ask, but I think I want to start with something else first, which is just to get a little better understanding about, well, let's do timeline. You want to do that?
Good.
Oh, okay. So we, one of the first things I'll do is spend time up here, probably, I have to work with Renee and figure it out, probably a good solid day and a half, doing interviews with businesses and property owners and trying to understand the market here better. The kinds of things I want to try and understand is, what is the trade area? I think the best interviews for that might be the grocery store and the pharmacy, and banks certainly have an idea of where the circles kind of go. I did a little driving around Cold Spring and Richmond to try and understand what their influences might be on the market and how that might relate to any of your opportunities. I don't know that any of that promises major transformation or major, shifts, but I think I just have to know that stuff before I say anything and have to try and understand the dynamics to understand the opportunities. So we expect we'll probably be wrapping up sometime June, July-ish, in that time frame. I have a handful of things to work with Renee on early on, and you may all want to give her some suggestions, but I'll want to interview the folks who were on that downtown revitalization task force, or
Bruce,
okay.
how much time are you gonna have, because Leo's on there?
Oh.
He could take up your day or two.
Okay.
But yeah, I can give you a list, I got a list.
Okay, what we need to do is just kind of schedule a couple days full for me up here or a day and a half, something like that. I want to interview some of the key businesses to try and understand the economic niche for downtown relative to other things. I've looked at enough data to figure out you have more employment than you have people here. So that's great news. Your daytime population is substantial. What?
That's not great news. It's not good news.
Well, it could be worse. You could be a bedroom community, and you get the commercial industrial tax base. Or what is the issue for you? You need workers?
Yeah.
Okay. But that does help your daytime population, and if there are opportunities to capture those people before they leave town, or to have this become a place they come back to, that's also helpful to try and understand how things are working. We need to figure out if there are any key properties and any property owners that I might need to interview. So any input you have for Renee on that. Good. Some of what you look for are there any properties that might be real catalysts or important for changing the dynamics of town? And it seems like you've already identified, at least the old drugstore as an area that's kind of a real eyesore, that there's some interest in doing some work there. So I'll need to try and understand the economics of that area a little better. So that's sort of the process. That's the process we'll be going through, and this is really designed to be sort of a first phase, just kind of sort out, rather than say, whoa, we're going to come in and give you the full solution. It was like, okay, let's get in and do some research and figure out what the next step is, and that's sort of where we'll take it between now and summer. And anything you want to add to what your folks will be doing as part of all that?
I don't think so. I think that covers it.
Okay. So I want to talk about the vision for downtown, but first I want to just get your sense of what the trade area is for downtown Painesville. The trade area. What do people shop for in Painesville, and what do they shop for elsewhere?
Downtown is pretty much service oriented right now.
Downtown is very service oriented, really. It's
It's appointment, appointment office. You gotta get an appointment to go anywhere almost except for maybe two places.
the coffee shop.
And the drugstore.
Yep, exactly.
In case, yeah.
Okay.
The bookstore.
The bookstore.
Yep, and the Queen Bee. Yep. Okay. So where do people who are coming to downtown come from? Where does it break? You know, people, you know, go to, where does the break occur when people start going to Wilmer? And where does the break occur where people start going to Cold Spring or St. Cloud?
Rossville, Canterbury, Howard,
Russ?
I mean,
I mean,
that's the major.
I think
If you
some of
wanted
it-
to just say break, I don't think.
So it's like, well, where's, like, who's coming here for groceries?
So I think there's a big difference in the demographics.
Okay.
Like, you know, we have a lot of retired people in this community.
Okay.
And I think they're the ones who tend to be more local shoppers.
Okay.
And local, you know, do business locally.
Okay,
And you know, some of those people I've heard complaints about, you know, just day-to-day things that they need that they can't get here in Painesville. It's really hard for them because it's not so convenient for them to go
to St. Cloud or
to
Wilmer?
St. Cloud. Yeah, and then I think that there's, you know, probably a lot of like younger families, younger people that don't really think a whole lot about, you know, it's not a big deal to just run, or, you know, or they're going for other things, and they just pick up what they need in St. Cloud or Wilmer or whatever.
Sure.
And maybe aren't as interested or aware of shopping locally. So I don't know if it's geographical
Okay,
as much as it is demographical,
okay,
which is some of the dilemma, I think, with even the vision for downtown, you know. There's a lot of people that want it the way that it was with the retails and the restaurants and the movie theater and stuff.
Yeah,
And
that's-
there's a lot of people that are like, that'll never happen again, and
yeah, it's,
it's not realistic, so.
yeah. So you mentioned that the retired people who are local shoppers complain about things they can't buy. What would be part of that?
Um,
Or what?
Well, I mean, now that shop was closed, it's like, you know, I mean, the one lady who was talking to me about it was like, I can't get yarn if I'm working on a crochet project or whatever.
Okay.
I can't get yarn here anymore. And
So Shopco did close here in Painesville?
Yeah.
Okay,
And before that, Elko was here. And that-
Pardon?
Elko was here before that, and that closed too.
yeah.
okay. So you have had reasonably successful general merchandises, general merchandise stores that are both closed, or?
Yeah, I mean, I had Dollar General too, which you know, is kind of a little,
Okay,
it's a place to get stuff if you need it.
Well, we were told Shopko and Elko did very well for
Yeah.
their size.
It wasn't the town that closed out, it was the
No, Shopko
corporation.
must not,
right.
No, Shopko, I seen their profit and loss. I mean, they made $2 million.
in Painesville.
And I
Why
got,
would they close this one when they were only closing 3 in Minnesota?
But they closed them all down.
That was like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
That doesn't,
it,
they were closing,
Makes sense, doesn't it?
yeah, that doesn't, I don't believe that.
it didn't, they,
Unless they were trying to shut down and trying to bankrupt themselves and not sell.
Well, how were things affected once Dollar General opened up? Like, when was that 2 million being?
it was different.
But Shopko and Dollar General were probably
Yeah.
similar
At the
times.
same time.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and they had,
Elko,
I think-
Dollar General heard Elko.
Yeah, because Dollar General was actually here before Shopko.
and I think Shopko opened before Dollar General.
It was
I
close.
thought that Dollar
Yeah,
General.
because
They were probably
because
similar.
Elko, Shopko, it wasn't closed very long and they moved in. But the problem that Shopko had, and I think why we were probably one of the first ones, is because they had multiple managers that were taking the profits home. And nobody regionally come out and, I mean,
Didn't trust the bank.
Well, they went to a bank, that's a problem.
they didn't have, they weren't turning a profit because of it.
Wow.
I mean, their sales showed that they should have been turning a huge profit, but the managers were taking it home. And there was no oversight. And so I think that's why we got to be, because it was just starting to come around, they had went and hired the manager from Home Depot in Wilmer about a month before they closed. They had hunted him here, and he was just starting to get it turned around.
It worked out very good for him.
No.
No. He was,
Decision is made.
he was very angry. But now it's come out too that 2 years before this or whatever, that had people down in Shopko had taken 117 million off the top, and now all the creditors that are out money have
Called
found out about
profit
sharing.
Share it with themselves.
See what the judge says, because they want their money. But, so I don't think that either one of those stores closed because of,
Your ability to
Because of
support
our
it.
ability, right.
Yeah, so that kind of store could be supported in this market.
oh yeah, even the guys that, the Shopko people that came and visited with me said, you can definitely support somebody. I think it's the
Bill.
pizzas.
No, it's Bill.
Oh,
Just Bill.
Just Bill.
Just
We were
So-
looking for pizza, we got Bill.
Well, maybe you paid for the pizza.
Come on in, Bill. This is our city attorney, Bill Spooner.
Maybe you paid for the pizza before you came.
And we have the influx in the summer when people come back to the lake.
what percentage change does that make in things?
Makes a huge difference to our liquor store.
Okay,
I mean, you can really tell out there when the lake.
Summer's always been the biggest profit for most of the places.
okay.
What Bert say about,
Some drugs in the summer and the winter. but Yeah, I mean, yeah, they sold a lot of stuff in the summer. I don't even know what percentages.
But we have two lakes, pretty popular lakes.
Coronas?
I was gonna
Coronas
say,
and Coronas.
population increases by 30% in the summer.
Something like that, yeah.
We also have a farmer's market downtown in the summer on Saturday mornings. That's pretty popular as well.
Okay.
And they've started doing one at the hospital Wednesday afternoons. Wednesday mornings.
So some of what people are, what, as the transition has moved away from retail to service, one of the things that there's a focus on is activating public spaces. And you do that with things like the farmer's market and other activities that draw people, and creating gathering spaces or spaces that can be relatively neutral and used in multiple ways. So but what Renee commented on the tour was the library is undersized and could really use, more activity. That is one of those kind of public spaces where you can build engagement, and I strongly encourage you to keep it downtown for that reason. It really helps bring people to downtown, and it can be an opportunity for programming too, if they do things that spill out into the street or into the community. And libraries are rethinking their role as society changes and moves away less from hard books to what is their role in communities. And it's clearly education, information, community building, those sorts of things. So the library seems to me to be an opportunity, just with the little amount of time I've spent here so far.
I think the library is well used. I mean, I think it does generate a lot of traffic. It just doesn't have the space to have a large gathering. They do small gatherings, but I don't think, I don't know how many people they could fit in there or something, but probably 25 to 30.
Kind of cozy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they do a lot of programming.
Yeah.
Too. They've had like one of those antique roadshow kind of guys come in a
Okay.
few times and.
well, they get really big, there's a lot of traffic down there.
Yeah.
There is, yeah.
The last summer they did like a sign making project where people could come and make help like yard signs or whatever, and they had to limit it. I think they cut it off at 14 people because they didn't know them on.
Sure. Do you have a senior center anywhere?
Yep,
And is that, where's that?
it's out by the bypass, by Quick Trip and the credit union. It's in
Oh, by New
between the two.
Painesville.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and that's very busy too. They just remodeled the whole inside. And it's got a Rose Center that helps the elderly with
Meals.
services, and they have Meals on Wheels.
Okay.
It's very busy.
They have all kinds of classes out there.
And they have a better space for it. I mean, they kind of do have a space for
Yeah.
for gatherings, but not unlike the library, they've got room for,
Yeah.
to get a decent crowd in there.
Mhm. So, kind of back to the trade area, and maybe I'll do, when I do interviews, I'll give people maps and let them draw them. What do people shop for in Painesville, and what do they shop for elsewhere? So, do you have a lumberyard?
We have 30.
Two.
Well,
3? Okay,
If you can fleet,
Yeah, I suppose.
maybe you have fleets, but then you have 2 lumber yards.
okay. And you've got hardware associated with them?
Well, 2 of them, Fleet and M&M sell hardware, but Bork doesn't. They just sell them.
There's a new greenhouse going in on the edge of town.
Okay.
There's stuff happening all over, just not downtown.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
yeah,
just
there
not
is
there.
stuff,
That's exactly
there's the
right.
thing, there's stuff happening. This is, if you go downtown for service,
Yep.
you go downtown to buy insurance, go see an attorney, maybe get your hair cut, your eyes,
Dentist and so forth.
dentist.
Mhm.
You,
That's it.
But
Get
is
your
that
drugs.
bad? I mean, is that a bad?
is that, I mean,
It is it is the changing character of downtowns. I mean, if you look at downtown St. Cloud, that has gone largely office.
in bars.
Yeah, they've got a college, they're a university. They've got thirsty students.
But in terms of, I mean, we got the meat market and the drugstore, hard to think of much else. I mean, other than
Coffee house.
cafes, there's a few places to get a cup of coffee, but mostly it's service places.
Mhm.
There must be a few other things I'm not thinking of, but there's not a lot.
Not that
I mean, most of the things that are there aren't things that you just stop into.
Mm-mm.
It's
Don't
important
appointment
to
or.
Yeah, yeah, it's very clear.
I mean, we stop into the used bookstore, but I feel like there's probably a lot of people in this town who don't even know that that's there.
What?
The, like,
Bookstore.
Venmo books and the
Yeah.
book shop and the.
But if you're driving through downtown, you're not gonna stop there.
No, and it's not, there's not a lot of signage for that.
So what is your vision for downtown?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Well, let's see if anybody wants to answer that.
Anytime you remodel or make a nice building, somebody's service oriented is going to come into it.
And that creates kind of a dead zone.
It does, but the buildings look better if there's anybody in there at all than
Right,
busted up windows on it.
right. And there's still decent tax base, not great, but
Right,
decent.
retail, retail doesn't exist anymore. Already, what did they say, 5,000 different stores are gonna shut down in the United States so far, that was like a month ago.
Uh-huh.
Retail will not survive. Do you think retail will survive down here?
Your retail is right here.
So that transformation
And-
is,
Without beating on Chris too bad, I mean, a little bit, but anyway. When the credit union moved out of town, nobody needed to come here anymore. They went to the credit union. Because the credit union is a very, very busy bank in this town.
was it originally affiliated with AMP or?
No, we were on the other side of the tracks, right across the street.
Yeah.
No, it was never,
Okay,
we're Central Minnesota Credit Union.
okay.
We
So
were
then
Melrose Credit Union
that-
way back.
Probably took 40% of the traffic.
Okay,
Because I talk to people all the time that hasn't been downtown forever because credit union's over here now.
okay, so you got credit union and groceries over there.
Yep.
And your.
Subway, McDonald's,
And
Quick
your
Trip,
the high school.
the high school, the Rose Center, the senior center.
Subway, the car
There's a reason we're
dealerships.
over there too.
Yeah.
Not because it's a dead area of town.
Well, yeah, and,
The airport.
We needed to get bigger and I knew where to go.
Yeah.
sure,
It
and,
wasn't gonna be downtown.
and the school district is a big activity draw in a community. So, and the traffic pattern associated with schools is a big factor in retail success.
So already we moved all of our retail out of town.
Okay,
And the ball field out there, the big ball field they built by the high school.
Yeah, so we
And
moved
we have
everything
the-
out of here. or
so it really
everything
is, it
migrated.
really is sort of destined to be something different.
Any type of retail, in my opinion, is going to live downtown. It's going to be the small kitschy shops like we have in the Ben Around Books building. And the types of places where those coming up from the cities want to shop on the weekends and get sort of, you know, the antique store would be nice.
Yarn and quilt shop.
Yarn and quilt shops.
Yeah, you're gonna put, and then there's like the Happy Hippie, which is like just a little boutique where she sells clothing and jewelry, but it's a little niche. you
Sure.
know, and she does great, but she also does a lot of, she goes around to festivals and shows, and you know,
Okay.
like she really, and she does a lot of online stuff, so.
Okay.
She really works her business, and I think that's what allows her to be successful here in Gainesville.
Okay.
Not as much people shopping.
And since,
But largely it's just services.
and since
Right.
I moved here in 2006, at noon on Saturdays, it's a ghost town downtown. Even when there was some other retail downtown, it was a ghost town at noon on Saturdays and nothing on Sundays. So, and the antique stores were never open, so if you had that during that time, it didn't work. And so and the businesses, a lot of the businesses close at 4:30.
So then,
The downtown vision, I would think, on a couple of these streets right here, if you could make them, just nicer.
if you could make them,
The streets nicer, the sidewalks nicer, because sooner or later, it'd be nice to have, I don't know, I got my ideas, everybody has their ideas. But if you're gonna do something downtown, first you gotta clean up how it looks.
I mean, my personal opinion is that you could get a couple, you need to have a niche clothing store or something like that, high end.
okay,
Because, I mean, the Ben Around Books and stuff, that's awesome to have, but you better not. I mean, it's gonna be somebody older that doesn't have any debt or something like that, because, I'm sorry, you can't make your loan payments
And
on the little, yeah, selling used books or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
It's just not, you're not gonna get financed, I'll tell you that much.
well, and eventually,
And they get their books from libraries that go under, and they sell a lot online, and they're both in they were retired from the military, and so they do a lot of stuff with wounded warriors and a lot of other things, so that's not their bread and butter.
No, I don't think Katie,
They
I don't
don't-
know how she stays in business with her frame shop either. I mean,
They must not.
Oh,
need
she's,
cash.
right,
she does really well with, she has all the people with this, that, and the one in Wilmer closed, so she's got all the Wilmer business, and one of the ones in St. Cloud closed, frame shop, so she's got a ton of framing, but she's not gonna be able to keep doing that because of her hands and her health.
I think you're only, I mean, the city, the downtown, if you can keep it as a service oriented, which you're gonna have a ton of that. If you could get, I mean, the best case scenario is if somebody would come in and redo you're trying to bring people downtown to get the movie theater back up and running. The bowling alley does bring kids downtown. There is nothing for kids to do. But Friday and Saturday night, the bowling alley is busy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so they do bring people in town. You keep the bowling alley, you get maybe a movie theater. You do, you know, it'd be nice, maybe there we go. Somebody wants to open up a brew house or something in one of the older buildings downtown. Something
Well,
like
they
that, you know?
had a couple of those looked into, and the guys, the brewers from St. Joe called and talked to me, and he said, we can't be downtown, because there's no business downtown, there's no traffic. We're only open limited days, in those limited days, we need to hit it hard. So he said, if I was seriously gonna come to Painesville, I would want the strip of land in front of the airport that you have for sale.
Sure.
Because it's easy on, easy off, and he said, you're by the hotel, you're by the fast food, he said, it's just, and people are gonna see your sign, you're easily lit up.
I would have thought that most breweries, people, their destinations,
Yeah, and they're packed.
if you do it right.
So Cold Spring is right nearby. That's clearly a
Cold Spring's
beer.
a different animal
Right.
than we are.
Right.
They're way closer to, well, they're way bigger than we are.
Well, I was just
And-
thinking of the brewery.
Well, that's
there.
huge. That's like our ABI,
Right, right.
but way
And it's
bigger.
been there for over 100
Yeah.
years.
Oh, yeah. Is
But
that,
It's not a,
where I was,
they do 95% of their business is Monster energy drinks. It's not their beer.
where I was going with that was tourism.
Oh.
You know, not, they don't really have a tourism
My wife
division
worked there
there.
for quite a while.
Pardon?
My wife worked there for a while.
Okay,
I mean, yeah, they get people coming in, but it's very, very minimal.
okay.
They have a nice facility.
They do. But it's not, that's just because they make so much money. And they can
I
afford to do
I
that.
just looked at it from outside.
Liar.
They're all, the people that own that are from California.
And the city administrator in Cold Spring, I'm sorry, yeah, Kristen Peaks is here, and the city administrator in Richmond and the city administrator in Rockville get together once a month to scout out whoever they can find, and they don't care which one of the 3 cities it goes to as long as they keep them away from me.
Oh,
That's why I'm not invited. Because I am busy out there pounding the pavement, trying to find any business I can get into,
okay,
and they just wait for them to be dropped on their lap.
okay.
So, I mean, they don't have a lot. I mean, right now Cold Spring is really booming, but they got a lot of senior housing and apartments and stuff
I
like that
was
going on.
noticing a lot of
They just
houses.
got a brand new one open, 55 and older,
Okay,
50 unit, 55 and older.
But they're really close to
Apartments.
St. Joe, Sartell, St. Cloud,
yep,
Interstate.
yep.
Pretty
People
close
don't
to
want to
St.
get out of
Joe,
St.
St.
Cloud.
John's.
Kind of nervous for all of the same Cold Spring.
Now with Highway 23 eventually gonna go 4 lanes from Richmond to here and from New London to here. That's our opportunity.
Sure.
When that happens,
Sure,
that's why I think some of the stuff that you're looking at or talking about, it's a good time to do it because it takes a while, but
right.
when that comes, you need to be ready.
So have downtown be a little more dressed up, more charming, more,
I agree with Chris.
Yeah, you want all that, but it costs money to do that. Unless people are gonna put it in themselves. I think it's, find a way to help people do that through TIF,
And not use tax.
and not use taxpayer money, but use TIF. But maybe that's using it, but not really. Not straight
It's chicken
cash,
bacon.
you know, maybe some.
The problem you run into is developers want all of it. They want cash, they want utilities, and they want a tip.
There's a reason why. Because
Because
it
other
won't
places-
make it.
Yeah, because they can't make it.
TIF's a nice program to not cost the city, but yet give somebody an
Right.
incentive. but-
Yeah.
and you really need it with redevelopment because redevelopment is so much more expensive than greenfields. You know, just-
The one idea I had for downtown is where the plaza is, take that building down
Okay,
and put up an area that people can bring their kids, things to do with their kids. Be it just run around like at the mall on those little playground areas and stuff, that kids can run around. Because if you get the kids busy, the parents are gonna go, okay, let's just go down there and you can run around and scream and holler. and they can have a break, but then the kid's gonna get hungry, so it's gonna need food. If it's a little one,
It's gonna need food.
if it's a little one, it's gonna need its pants changed.
Right.
They're all gonna get thirsty. And if they stay down there long enough, they're gonna go, oh, damn, I need something for dinner, because we were sat down here all day. And so then you've got those other needs in that same vicinity that would help that. Now, the company that is looking for something to go in Shopko is looking at a commercial daycare to come in for 24/7 daycare. Now, I didn't know there was a daycare shortage in the community,
There is,
a huge daycare
Yeah.
shortage.
my
Yeah.
assistant looked forever.
And so, I'm working with another manufacturing company who's looking at opening a daycare 24/7 as a benefit for their employees, so that they can hire people who will come here, because the daycare will be right with them.
Can you leave it alone?
But,
Can you leave it alone?
Yeah, right.
but,
The good
There-
example
so-
of that is Taylor Corp in Mankato. They did it in the 80s.
did it?
Clay Taylor's company?
Yeah.
They
And
did
they,
one in
they-
Buffalo too.
They found that they had incredible amount, it was actually, people wanted to work there because they knew they could get the childcare. So it attracted, it also helped with retention, it also helped with promotion, and it helped with women, particularly with women willing to take promotions, because it wasn't like, it's 4:30, I've got to go, or the fee, the fines will be hitting. So they could actually stay the extra half an hour and have a conversation in a professional role as opposed to an hourly role. They had the opportunity to get out. So they've got great stories at Taylor Corp if you want a reference on that.
So yeah, there's a huge daycare need.
Oh,
Because of all the regulations that went in, all the at-home ones
Sure.
closed.
Yep. Yeah, no, childcare is a huge issue everywhere, but particularly greater Minnesota.
And this, in 24-hour.
Especially when you've got,
Industrial,
yeah. Especially if you've got AMP 24/7. I don't know how many others in the industrial park are 24/7?
We run 24/5.
Okay,
Mass Arts runs 24/7. Lewis Industries runs some stuff 24 hours a day.
yeah.
Staying runs 24 hours a day.
The
Yeah, the-
hospital's 24.
yep.
Yeah. So were you thinking of that downtown, or you're saying that Shopko's got that kind of locked up as existing space?
Well, the play area, I wanted downtown.
Okay.
That was my vision, and have it connected to the library, so that can all expand.
Yeah. I think activating space and doing it in the wholesome way that happens with the library would really be a draw. The other way that sometimes that happens is senior facilities where you've got activity, but it sounds like that's already out by the credit union.
And my question for you is, at what point are you saturated in the area with senior living? And I gotta call it, we've had 3 previous ones, and now we got another one that wants to go downtown. And the hospital has senior living, and Cold Springs just put up a big senior living. And at what point, that's my concern, is now I got another call from somebody that wants to put up senior living.
Well, these guys that are putting it up, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They
can't get.
I've financed 7 of them probably in the last 3 or 4 years, big ones. And if you know how to run it, you're gonna do very well, and if you don't know how to run it, you're gonna break even. Because, and it's just gonna give, everything that I've read, I've been to a bunch of conferences, everything you see, population's getting older, and they need this.
Mhm.
And my generation, or even the younger generation, aren't taking care of their parents like maybe they took care of their parents.
Mhm.
They're not coming, the parents aren't coming home to live with the kids anymore. So it's gonna become more and more prevalent, and as people live longer, it's even gonna get worse. So I've had calls about this town too, several of them, and looking for land and talking to me and things like that too, so. These guys know what they're doing.
Mhm.
There's so many studies being done before you ever see that phone call, that they know this town is in need.
Mhm.
Now, the unknown, and what they probably, most of those maybe don't know too, is if the hospital does it, they're gonna win. Because the one that's if they do it right, and they have one connected to the hospital, that one always succeeds.
Mhm.
So the hospital has about a $40 million expansion
Whoa.
for on that and design, well, part of it being their new nursing home that they're actually currently going after some funding for. That market, the Centric Care is this regional.
Yeah. It's the old St. Cloud Hospital.
Yes, and their profits as of this last year took a hit. Otherwise, I think there's a really good chance that expansion will happen at the campus. So what my concerns is if there's tax money available, to me, helping them push those guys over the edge is more important than tearing down corner drug if we only have some amount of money, because that represents hundreds of jobs. That's a true legacy for the community if we can get that, and that adds some pretty unique, the new hospital concepts. They would do it on the old space. I was for a new green space, but after hearing all the conversations, it's going to stay on the existing campus. But how quickly is that going to happen? All I know is it's in the works, and depending on where their funding comes, but they may be coming to the community for support. They normally do. So that's part of my reason here is that if there's going to be housing, it feels like if the hospital will do it, it's a lot better chance of success.
And they want to start this summer. They want to do the Corona's Banner section this summer.
But
Yeah,
there's still issues, if you will. Hopefully, that comes.
So
Is there a plan to expand that or just sort of remodel it?
No, nursing home would be completely new, it would be tearing it down.
So is it a continuum of care, like senior, independent, then assisted, then nursing? Is that what they're?
Theory, yeah.
And memory? Okay.
I don't know if memory was, I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Because you can go from 700 Stearns to, you can start at Washburn and go to 700 Stearns and then go to the new Coronas.
In theory, yeah. And, they also, they have data and they're confused on the information that's coming on this latest edition, because that was supposed to be the latest development we're talking about, the $2,000 cost per something to that effect. So they were confused of why their data shows that they could support that kind of revenue. So the hospital's data wouldn't show that being a success.
Okay, so the hospital's data conflicted with a recent developer
Yes.
proposal for
Yeah.
downtown.
Which was an interesting to hear their conversation on it. So
Okay.
I just
Sounds
feel
like the
that-
hospital might be one of the interviews they do.
I think that would be very good to talk to the hospital.
Okay.
And see. No, there's been stagnant times, no doubt, there has been, but they've been really working hard at Batesville. It's very profitable and doing very well. But the healthcare industry is
Challenging.
really a challenge right now, so we might miss as far as quickly making this happen. But so that's my hope is that we can have that happen. I'm just concerned that they come to us and ask for X from the city, and we say no, and that, would that have been enough to take it over? They normally go after private donations, like Long Prairie, they they raise a
Mhm.
huge amount of money
Mhm.
along Prairie.
Mhm.
They're considered the poorest county in the state.
Per capita.
Anyhow, they raise,
Yeah. And they
I
are.
think we just talked about that.
because people wanted that hospital, and they're doing very poorly as a hospital.
Wow.
But,
This developer that wanted to do something downtown said he was gonna be talking to the hospital, whether, you know, what that conversation meant, I don't know.
I talked to Peach on that, and they did talk with, you know, developing a partnership where the hospital takes a lot of the responsibility. It's kind of
Not that
he
good.
said it was a little bit of an odd
Yeah, those developers, they want the hospital to take all the risk.
Yeah. But, so we're very fortunate to have a hospital here, but you know, it's going to be a challenge to make sure that we can take it to the next level, which then it'll be for a long time.
So maybe the idea of housing as a downtown option is not a priority? Or what's,
Well,
I don't want to have, just let,
Definitely a
just,
housing shortage.
pardon?
There's definitely a housing shortage.
So
but
there's
it's-
other options for housing.
I mean, like, we need workforce housing, which is hard to, it's hard to build that brand new and still have it be affordable for people, but.
Yeah, the
You know, that's
affordable
where we
housing
are.
is, we're like everybody else. Everybody needs affordable housing, but nobody can afford to build it
Right.
and charge that rent for it
Yep.
without some kind of government subsidy that tells the city of Minnesota and so forth, starts giving out grants.
Right.
You can't build affordable housing.
Right.
Brittany,
So-
has anyone talked to sand companies out of St. Cloud or St. Joe, wherever they're at, to see if they would be interested? I know they do a lot of Section 8 housing around the state. I don't know if that'd be an option.
I'm a dagger. Section 8 housing, we need to go through Stearns County and Cold Spring, there's Stearns County HRA.
But as we
Because
look
then
at
we can-
bringing more of these units to the city, I know there are developers and companies that work specifically in that area, like sand companies being one of them. So I was just wondering. They might be an option.
Because usually they like the government subsidies, which would be applied for through the grants, through Stearns County HRA.
Yes, Stearns, so I think one of the other places I want to touch on is the Stearns County HRA. And so I'll see what they have available for housing studies and not,
Ours is more current than theirs.
okay.
They are going through some transition with their administration.
Bob left after forever.
Bob left after forever, and Bob felt no communities needed additional housing needs. And now they have a new director, and now they're looking back into getting to the small cities grants, helping communities with them, getting out into the communities and actually seeing what the communities need with the new director. So they're kind of going through a rebuilding stage.
I think that would be a great resource for sorting out and, you know, maybe setting yourself up to be one of their early projects or that kind of thing. So manufacturers like you would be happy to have more people living in town?
Oh, sure.
And, ooh, that's an interesting, so that
We have, I mean, the manufacturers, the MBI and these guys, they pay good wages.
I was gonna say, I think.
They pay very reasonable wages in this town. I mean, you've got AMBI pays very well, Snake, Nelson, Lewis,
Valley.
Spanier, Valley. I mean,
So
there's a
those-
lot of really good businesses out there that pay
all-
very fair wages.
So your average wage in manufacturing, I guess I can look it up, but probably 40 to 60, 35 to,
30 to 40.
30 to 40,000? Or 30 to
That's
40,000?
just on the line.
That's just a
That's
production
starting.
worker.
So the
15
production,
is 31 to 31.
Yeah.
so a production worker is 15 bucks an hour, starting?
And you can do it at AMBI for, what do they pay?
1685.
1685,
To start.
AMPI starting, and then on up.
Yeah. So you're in the 30 to 50 range. What's
Probably.
it? What do you think, Bruce, 30 to 50? Your employees? Average? Bruce is like at the 10,000 to 12,000 range.
But I would say this so that, I know, whatever, 45 people we have, I don't know how much to do the math, but I'd say 3/4 of them don't live in this community or even in the surrounding areas. They're driving from Albany, Melrose. I don't know about yours, but they're more local. I don't know what that means.
Means most of your family and all.
Well, I drove through your industrial park, and your industrial park is large for a community of your size.
They're constantly expanding.
And somewhere in here,
We need another one too.
But do you think those people would live here if there were housing available?
I don't know, I just thought it was interesting. It's a good question. I don't know.
Those are,
Maybe
what's your
not
long,
like-
you got a lot of long-term, you know, higher rent employees too, and they're not, you know, they've been there for a long time and make good money, so they're buying acreage too and stuff, they're not just living in a house in town.
yeah, your daytime population is set up at, or is identified as 3,360, where your total population is identified as about 2,500. So about 800 or 900 more people by day than you have.
You know, now that you mention that, I've been quite a few bars striking.
I wonder how many in hospital.
Oh,
That's
that's
a
a
lot.
lot.
That's over 30,
Yeah.
that's almost,
Yeah.
that's 30%, right?
Well, it's school,
30%.
it's a school too.
That's higher, yeah.
Most
Yeah.
teachers live in
No.
town. Few, but.
Yeah.
A handful.
So what does that mean?
Very few.
I mean, what is that? We have
I don't know what
churches,
that
we
means.
got lots of churches.
I don't know what that means for downtown. It probably means you have a good retail market if you have,
And capitalize on it.
if you can capitalize on it. That was actually one of Long Prairie's issues. They had a much bigger retail market potential, and they just didn't have any retail land. So everybody always went to Alex.
We got land.
Yeah, I mean, so, but you want to have it in the right traffic pattern and all of those sorts of things.
But don't you also want to look at some, I mean, like, if you look at where people are at in life when they're coming in to fill these jobs in the industrial park, and, you know, and are they young people who are just starting out in their families, whatever, you know, and like, what's going to meet their needs in a downtown? If they're living downtown, what are they going to want?
Right.
Like, they're easily accessible.
Yeah, and-
It's a lot different, you know, the millennial generation is a lot different than even, you know, my generation, and so.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a market. I mean, this is a pretty rural area. I mean, a lot of people here have a pretty rural history, and are they going to want to live downtown? I don't know. You know, can you make workforce housing? You're saying,
Well, I mean,
It's cheap,
yeah, I don't know.
otherwise no.
What about with the noise? The AMPI, they blow their horn in the, like 5 AM and at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and at noon and again at 5:30 and.
well, what, do you have
That
a
And then
soundboard?
we have the train.
Yeah.
A little bit
Well-
of train tracks, but downtown right now, how many people you got living?
Quite a few, don't you? Apartments?
But do you think they're,
I think we'd be used to that, that's the last thing somebody worries about, I think.
well,
I mean, well,
I beg you to
after they're
talk to
living
the
here.
Corbins.
Yeah, but they're living here. They didn't think about it before they were living here, they think about it after they're living
they,
here.
We talked to them
the
about it.
Corbins actually slept out there for 2 weeks, listening for trains.
They still want
I
it.
live a block and a half from the train tracks.
There
It's
wasn't
just
any
okay.
trains,
Yeah, they
the
don't-
laws changed in
It's
November,
not too far.
and
But
then they got
my
that
house is
horn.
only 2 blocks that way, they blow the sirens like.
Yeah.
They're unusual.
Yes, exactly, we can't run our downtown off that. But I still think that your downtown, I mean, if that's what they're still talking, whatever they were talking about that's happening, is not happening downtown. It's in the industrial park, it's out there, it's the hospital.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and that's just how it's, I truly
Well-
think that's how it's going to be.
Well, and
So we
but
need-
that's, you know, you're giving me really important context. If I don't understand that, I can't.
It's
It's-
natural.
Yeah. So how do you, what do you do with downtown? I mean, I think our best thing with downtown is to try to get the businesses that are currently downtown to expand into downtown,
And, you know,
which
you,
is the AMPI and stuff. That's your best chance, because it's very, obviously, it's very difficult to get somebody to move downtown.
AMP's expansion, I mean, would be, take up some real estate. And they'd be a good taxpayer.
Is there,
It's not gonna give you a warm fuzzy feeling when you go downtown, but.
Right, but Ken, I mean, you know, when you take some space out of commission,
That's what's happening.
then that means those businesses might relocate into some of the other areas.
right,
And if you can be more strategic in the relocation, so you tend to cluster services and you tend to cluster retail or wherever there's going to be traffic, you know, that doesn't happen overnight. But if everybody in town who's a property owner in a business sort of shares the vision and says, okay, you appointment people, you're over there, and we're going to have the restaurant, you know, the active places, you know, close to each other, and we're going to do the public realm improvements near the active places and sort of build an activity zone where there's the library, there's maybe something for kids, there's a restaurant, there's a coffee shop, there's at least a place that's the active core. But that takes time. But, you know, it means that property owners share that vision, and so it's really important where you have property owners who care about downtown and want to invest in downtown and make it happen. They're the ones I really need to talk to. And the rest of them will just have, I mean, sometimes it's just funerals. Sorry, but I've been doing this a long time, and, you know, it's what happens. I mean, sometimes you get kids who inherit things, and, you know, and then they're just taking cash out of it, and then they just keep taking cash out of it, and finally there's a new roof that's needed or a new HVAC system. Or there are some cities that put in place sort of these systems for irritating people with vacant buildings. That means you have to like maybe pay a vacant building registration fee of $1,000, and the fire marshal is going to bug you every 6 months. And if they find anything wrong, it's going to be 3 months until you finally get to be so irritating that they really want to get rid of it and do something else. So,
the problem is who buys it then?
well, that's why you maybe want to have your strategy in place and have good people or good ideas, or so you can, you know, have, you want to have your vision and your ideas, and then you start the sticks on the ones who are.
And and one of the problems is the buildings that could be or are for sale are the ones where the owners didn't maintain them, but they still think they're worth gold. And so how do you, you know, the theater's a perfect example. He had so many opportunities to sell that building, but he didn't. And now he's willing to take those same prices.
But it's deteriorated.
But it's, yeah,
Yeah.
now nobody wants it. And we've got a lot of buildings like that people aren't gonna pay for them because the money you gotta put into them is so much.
Is there any sort of, you know, you have like, when somebody builds something, they have to put so much green space or stuff like that. Is there any way to get around that where instead of them putting green space, they can pay an additional fee or something, a tax or something like that, where that money would go into a fund that would help create green space eventually downtown?
We don't have any green space requirements downtown. We do have that
Park
park dedication fee, and you can do that, and people do, when they do developments, but it only really happens when you have
That's
a
a pretty small
development.
amount.
Yeah.
So
It's not worth, it would take forever to build that
Take
up.
forever.
That's what, operators.
like right now, the only development that's likely to get active is Furchy, and that's a big enough one, I imagine, he's gonna wanna have green space. He's gonna wanna have parks within that, I would think.
Right.
I can't imagine that he wouldn't. But there could be something else that'll happen, but there's nothing, that's obvious where there's gonna be another subdivision that I can think of.
Can you send us an example of that vacant building
Yeah.
ordinance?
Yeah, I've got the names of a handful of towns that have done versions of that. There are communities that have done vacant building tours also, as a way to stimulate interest in buildings. I don't know that, I don't know about the condition of any of yours.
There's some that the city even contacted them to say we were interested in buying them and couldn't get it. They let us in the door, but wouldn't turn on the lights or let us go any further than inside the door, so.
Yeah, because there's
But
so
that's
bad.
and no, actually, he just didn't want us in there.
Okay,
And that was the old, the one that you said was yucky at that other far end, the old other grocery
oh,
store.
yep.
Yeah, he let us in and that's all the further. He wouldn't turn on the lights. He wouldn't let us downstairs. He wouldn't let us anywhere. Pretty much, he's just got big gaylords of stuff.
Was that building deteriorated beyond repair too? No?
Structurally sound.
He maybe was just worried you guys were gonna find
But
something.
really, your downtown Painesville, the only eyesore you have is the corner drug and the next one there. The rest of the buildings aren't an eyesore so as much. It's just that corner building you hit, that kind of wrecks your whole vision after that.
It's that focal point. You're drawn
Yeah,
to
that's what I
it,
think.
that's what everyone's.
It's just kind of like, you come down, you see it, like, ugh.
You
Yeah.
take that one off though.
Yeah, if
And
we take
tuxes.
those two out.
And then after that, twice as nice as. So you gotta get all the way down to the bank building before you
You go across the street.
Otherwise, you're gonna still have a crappy looking building in
Right,
the
and it's
corner.
across the street from the plaza.
Right, and it's across the street from the plaza, so.
And I think that's part of the problem too. I mean, how are you gonna get a developer to build something new when they gotta look across the street to the plaza?
Mhm.
Yeah, and you got people loitering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a vicious circle.
Late, the people in the plaza don't bother me as much as the people in Lenzel building.
what's the Lunzold building?
It's like one of the recovery treatment.
Oh,
So they
okay.
sit out front of those buildings and smoke cigarettes and,
Okay.
It was so much nicer and quieter when I was there.
It actually seems like you've got quite a few social services.
We're Stearns County, high alcohol rate.
yeah. Is there three?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 recovery centers?
Isn't it two?
No.
2 downtown?
Serenity Path, Four Seasons, and then
Four Seasons is all therapy though.
Is
Pardon?
You
there-
know, Four Seasons does all types of therapy,
Yeah.
not just alcohol
Yeah.
and drugs.
Oh, that's on the other side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they came because of Serenity Path.
Right now, is Serenity Path still active?
They got a new director, so they're back up and
Yeah, they're,
running.
Huh. So you have social services downtown, and you have insurance,
Attorneys.
dentist,
Yeah.
salon,
Attorneys.
salon.
Three attorneys.
1,000 attorneys.
Just make thousands of money.
If we had a few more drugstores, it'd be like going across from Texas to Mexico.
No, you weren't on the tour, and somebody said there are 2 drugstores downtown.
It was.
One's
They
cheaper
were
than the
across the
other
street from each other for many years.
Yeah.
Well, and then you got the City Hall, which has got motor vehicle in it, which is
Oh, well, here goes traffic.
astronomically busy.
Yeah.
We are super, super busy with,
Just
with
brings a lot of
traffic.
people in.
yeah. I mean-
Then where's the closest one? Is the 30 miles away?
Albany.
St. Cloud, Wilmer,
30 miles.
Albany,
Sorry.
and
30 miles every direction,
Yeah.
right? So,
Lynch.
That was one of the things I was noticing about Painesville as I thought about this area and looked at maps is, you know, you're far enough from Wilmer and far enough from St.
kind of
Cloud.
30 miles from everything.
And that's just enough of a pain, I
It
think,
is.
to be.
That's
to be
probably why
good for you.
Shopko and Elko made money, why
Yeah.
Dollar General is a busy store and stuff. I mean, because
Yeah,
you don't go there I always said, you never go to Shopko and spend $400 that you might do at a Target or something like that. But you go there 20 times and spend $40.
right.
So,
Well, and they're open tests.
right, they're open at 10 o'clock, right, exactly. So, but it's one of those things, I mean, it's same with fleet in town. I mean, if you're doing a whole home remodeling project, yeah, you probably, unless you're one of the upgraders, but if you're doing it your own, you might go to the larger Home Depot, but if you need something, few things, you go to fleet.
So is your fleet Farm or just a different fleet?
Fleet Supply.
Fleet Supply.
He owns like several of them, socks and
And it's true hardware inside there?
True Value?
It's a good store, they have a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we
Big store.
It's kind of like your shop call. It might not have exactly the brand you want, but it has the tool you want, or the toaster you want, or whatever.
Yeah, you can,
Those are.
you're close. Yeah, you can.
Oh, I found things at Fleet that I can't get at Boss, so that was a plus.
Lots of them do a lot of retail.
No,
I
very,
was looking
very,
for a very specific.
Yeah.
And what is Voss?
that's just plumbing.
Yeah.
Commercial plumbing,
plumbing and heating.
Oh, okay.
but it's mostly
Big
commercial.
employer.
They'll do something at your house, but they really don't want to.
They'll charge you commercial rates. They'll do it, but they're gonna charge you commercial rates. But they're a very good employer.
Mhm.
And then concrete.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Concrete too, lots of concrete.
Okay.
And stone blowing. They're very multi.
We have 2 car dealerships, new used car dealerships in town too. We have a Chevy and a Ford dealership, so.
Yeah, I noticed, I pulled some numbers on
And an
your,
implement dealer,
An RV.
2 implement dealers.
and two car part shops, auto
And the
part shop.
implement dealers are very large. They're good employers. You can see
Ted's
them.
RV, yeah.
Ted's RV.
It's RV, so
Yeah.
a lot of RVs.
They-
Oh.
A lot of hard.
overall, your numbers show that generally speaking, you're doing 37% better than you should for a population of your size. Woohoo! You're punching above your weight. Areas where you're particularly punching above your weight are,
Liquor. No, just kidding.
well, let me check, I haven't gotten down there yet. Motor vehicle parts, motor vehicle and parts dealers, you're really strong. You are almost total leakage in terms of, you're doing okay on basic restaurants, but you don't seem to have a lot with alcohol.
Just a Legion and Green Beans.
Right now, our
Um,
best one closed, but that had nothing to do with finances.
Right.
It had everything to do with health.
You're punching above your weight in used merchandise stores.
Yeah.
But not in hours.
Right.
Not in hours that they're open.
One area that it looks like you might have an opportunity would be sporting goods, but I don't know if there are areas closer to the lakes that take that niche.
Yeah,
Not really.
and there, you couldn't, if you open a sporting goods store here, it's
See, that's
it's a
where
death
our,
march.
Okay,
that's where our runnings would have come in.
pardon?
That's where our runnings would be.
That's our big morning talk is everybody would like to have a runnings and things.
Runnings.
A running fleet.
Never runnings like the one in Wilmer.
Oh.
What do they,
What was that?
what do they,
Litch has one.
Litch has one, Wilmer has one, and then,
Well, it's a fleet farm, basically.
Yeah, it's running's fleet.
but the other one,
Oh.
what I didn't know is that all the Walmarts that close up is runnings located.
That's what it's
It's not
about.
all day.
Also, we can
They're
go
actually
Walmart first.
expanding on it.
a vacant, well, maybe a vacant Shopko.
You probably could get Running's attention.
Yeah, but there's already the fleet supply.
Yeah, fleet supply thing.
They're similar. Too similar.
As soon as you get it around the road, you take the loser.
Yeah, there you go.
A lot of those guys
But
are
once
in
again,
state
it's like-
members.
I
they
still
will-
think if you're trying to get back to
they'll stay out
downtown,
of each other's territory.
what you need to do with downtown
Kind of
is
have a gentleman's agreement.
try to clean up some of the blighted properties somehow and and just understand that you have a service industry downtown and grow the rest of it.
It looks like it, and, you know, where I see,
Try to get close.
where you see problems, and I just saw this in Edina and a couple of the smaller commercial nodes, even there, where kids inherit the building and they can keep getting rent, it's like an annuity. And when somebody buys it who has a viable operating business, it's cleaned up, there's pride, there's reinvestment, the roof is done, the HVAC is done, the windows are clean. And so it's the real death of so many of the buildings is the kids who inherit it.
Really? That's the big factor down there.
Oh, it's everywhere. I mean, it's Monticello, it's, you know,
About like losers.
there was there was one corner in Edina and I could just look around and it's like, here's the kid who inherited it and crappy things are going on. Here's the kid who inherited it and, you know, it's the building's running down. There's still a viable dry cleaner, there's still a viable ice cream shop. But, you know, the building is running down. And then somebody buys it and they put money in, if they have a viable business. And so, you know, that's why I like the ordinances that get after the vacant buildings, and you just become a little burr under their
Isn't that
saddle.
what Paul did with that car dealer on the corner? Wasn't he just, it was the sheriff in town,
Yeah.
police chief, he just kept stopping them, cleaning
Yeah, we
up.
got the state patrol involved, and you just kept busting them for every little thing,
I mean, he did, kind of drove them right out of town.
and that's where Dollar General was now.
Okay.
So St. Paul 10 years ago was, for all intents and purposes, dead. And 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it was still dead. But then they started bringing in
The what?
residents. People started living down there.
Mhm.
They started closing, I mean, services as they would leave would get replaced by condos and apartments.
Mhm.
And now it's rejuvenating and coming back to life.
Mhm.
Has that ever been replicated in a small town like ours, where we do put in some, you start with the affordable housing, then you work into some market rate places?
You know, I am not so much a housing person, but I can talk to some people who are. Elk River tried doing it with condos, and that didn't work at all. But that may have also been a timing issue. That happened about 2009. So it's a little hard to say. I'm not sure we've had the housing pressure long enough in greater Minnesota.
Were they condos to own or to rent?
To own. Right down near the river. It was really quite a lovely situation. But they just did not sell. And I got taken over, and I'm not sure, it might be apartments now. But I think they sold like 3, many. I know.
2009.
Yeah. So it's, but it, you know, I mean, Elk River is close to the metro, and it was a beautiful, you know, it's kind of a nice downtown, and it's, on the other hand, there is a railroad there too, running right along 10. Let me see what other things we had on our agenda. We may have covered it. What's your vision for downtown? What do you think we should know? Hopes and concerns?
You know if there's any funding out for helping any of these blighted properties and the owners or people who want to look into them?
If there's,
Or for cities that want to take them down?
Yeah.
Is there, I mean, my hope is that we could do, either take down blighted properties or revamp them, but not be using per se our taxpayer money. I mean, if there's a grant out there or something to take down a blighted property and make a beautiful park out of it, I'm all for it.
Deed had a fund for a few years, for tearing down buildings. That went away, what, about 3 years ago? 4?
Yeah.
Something like that. So unless the legislature puts that back, there's really, I've never seen, you could maybe structure a small cities grant to do one piece that was like that.
But the problem, I mean, we can't condemn any of them because they're not,
Oh, but you might be able to buy them. If we-
Right.
oh, yeah.
If there was grant, like the corner drug building, and
Right.
even eats and treats and olives, I mean, there's willing sellers.
Oh, yeah, oh,
So, I mean,
definitely.
if you had a grant that allowed us to do that, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
I don't
what
think.
you have to do is you have to have really clear project.
Right.
You have to say, okay, we're gonna tear this down, this is gonna become a park, but that's gonna be across the street from this, and this is what's gonna get built there, and you have to have letters of commitment from everybody that they're all ready to do it, and that's the way your grants have to go in. So there's a lot of groundwork that needs to be laid to make any of that happen.
But if there was a grant, then we could probably get the groundwork done. I mean, we're not gonna go through you still have to have something available. I mean, we
It's
can't
gotta
write
be
a
a
grant
program
without a
out
grant.
there
Pardon?
We can't write a grant without a grant.
available.
You've got a chicken egg problem, is that what you're saying?
Well, you're saying there is no program right now.
There's no program to just tear down buildings, but small cities, you could include tearing down, but they aren't just gonna let you tear down. You're gonna have to have a whole downtown revitalization thing. You're gonna have to say, we've got a developer who's ready to do this if we do that.
Well, I think that would be something, if you were gonna say a hope, I would hope that we could include something like that in this program we're talking about. I mean, that this could be part of it,
I'm not sure we'll get there in 2 months, but
I don't know either.
we're
The
on
question
the
still gets to be though, what's your vision for what you would put there if you could get that grant? Like, what would
Right. Yeah.
what would your hope be that we could put? Say you could take those first 2 buildings, would you think housing? I mean, I don't know.
I would actually just say,
Yeah.
well.
I'd put the library there.
The library would be great, yeah.
There's a really nice project in Carver County that was done, how about veterans housing?
How is it?
They did a really nice job in Moon Falls.
I know a guy who actually used to be the Carver County HRA, the Economic Development Director for Carver County. And he's now working with a developer that does veterans housing. And I thought of John because he was involved with this project when he was with the Carver County HRA, where they did a really nice library downstairs and then housing upstairs. And one of the things that John's doing in his veterans housing is trying to make sure that there are really great facilities and services for the veterans also. So it isn't just like you get warehoused out in your room. There are also then community spaces, there are opportunities. Does
Do
that?
they work too?
They-
Most of them? Do the veterans employ
Some do.
some do, some don't?
Yeah, it depends
I mean,
upon.
because then you'd have, those would be great probably employees for somebody like Elaine or something like that too.
They're coming down to see me next week.
Because I live in Eden Valley, and the house next to us used to be a veteran's house. But they
Okay.
couldn't find anybody that would work the night shifts
Okay.
to make sure that, because they had to distribute the meds and stuff. But that's, I mean, he bought the school in St. Cloud, the guy that owns that house bought one of the schools in St. Cloud and made it into a veterans home.
Okay.
Huge money. He makes huge money. I mean, just in that house next to us, there's 13 bedrooms in there, and he pulled in $2 million off the veterans that live there because the state
Hey
pays.
Bruce, let's do it.
I think we got our plan. Yeah.
I mean,
In the end, we have a meeting at
and
8:05.
they would come, he would bring them over here in a van,
need some partners.
and they would go on the Let's Go Fishing program. So they'd go out fishing with Let's Go Fishing people. He'd take them in the van and go to the movie over in Cold Spring. He did all kinds of stuff with them.
Disabled vets.
Somewhere, but they were all vets. Some just like
They
to
paid
sit
for
up back
them.
and
I mean, did they pay
smoke
on their
pot.
own for those, or were they,
Huh?
like, they paid a rent themselves, or they were?
Yeah, they rented
That's
Prescribed.
Maybe we should just turn the plaza into veterans park, for veterans housing, because you already got.
Yeah, no, they some were injured, some weren't. Some worked, some didn't. But, I mean, they did all kinds of stuff with them and took them to their doctor's appointments and stuff. But they had to have somebody on staff 24 hours, and he could only get the days filled. So he had to disperse them all. And some he took up to St. Cloud.
He was
And
making that much money, and
he wanted us to buy the house.
if he's making that much money, he could afford to
He should be able to
buy
buy somebody to come in there.
Yeah, that
He could've
something
paid.
doesn't add up.
My wife would have come for $100,000.
You know what I'm
Every
saying? You
night.
pay enough.
Oh,
you
yeah,
get-
he was cheap. But he makes a boatload of money.
So at any rate, I distracted myself when I thought about John because my brain skipped from the facility. I think it was in Victoria that had a nice library downstairs, and I believe it was senior housing upstairs. And I think there might have been like one little bay where there was a coffee shop and a salon or something, I don't know. But it ended up being a really nice community asset. And in Grand Rapids, Minnesota right now, it's associated with the hospital. They did an interesting project where they sort of have the Y and the senior center all connected, and the hospital has 4 exam rooms right in the Y senior center complex.
So if there was brand new housing right where that corner drug was, would it feel like a nice place that you want to move to live?
Well, you pointed out that the plaza's right there, huh?
Yeah.
AMPI's right there, the tracks are right there. Is it something that you'd say,
I could retire here.
yeah,
Then you wanna pay $1,000 a month then?
$2,000 a month? Isn't that what it was?
You know, I don't know what else is around. You know, what's the competition?
So you're
Well-
moving into this area. I'm just saying, does it give you a warm fuzzy to move down?
No, actually, the spot I like is on the Rum River in Cambridge. Presbyterian
You
Homes.
look at the city.
They were here, they wanted to come here.
Pres Homes is a class act.
Right?
Yeah, they
You've got
wanted to
the
come
lady
here at one
purple.
time.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm not, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Are you interested enough in veterans housing to learn more about it?
I'd say we just check it.
Well,
Yeah, I think it's worth.
I think-
thinking about.
Yeah, but we're interested to get somebody to come here and develop. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what, we don't have the money to do that, or,
But the Veterans Administration funds it.
Oh my goodness, what a nightmare.
they fund it, they would build it? No.
Well, I'll check.
They
Part of
tried
it.
to plan.
Bruce will build it, they pay.
They did the one, in.
I want to get
I want part of
Mitch
it.
did the one in-
I want part of this.
This is private housing that's done for veterans.
Right.
So, John used to be with the Carver County HRA, and now he's with the developer that does this privately. and it's supposed to be good stuff, so,
Well, right, bring that developer here to look at it. and tell
Yeah.
them. I mean, that would be great, if there's something that's the kind of person, because I think that if you can give a veterans a new place to live, they're not looking for the Rum River, at least probably a lot of these people aren't.
right.
Okay, they're looking for some place to live with, something to do in a new, like you say, something decent and so.
So where we might be able to help is what would you say that they want to see in the community? For example, would they say, well, if we bring veterans here, we would like to see what? You know, for example, we would like to see part-time work, or maybe Wayne could
Right,
provide it.
right.
What would we as a community need to do to entice them to put something here? You know what that is?
No,
There's a hospital here, does that help?
oh, I would guess, that would.
It's closer than 30 miles from the VA.
Right.
I know he was looking at the city of Isanti, which is 5 miles from the Cambridge Hospital. So you would be closer than that. I can call John. He's a great guy.
It'd be interesting to know what he would want to see in the
Right.
community.
Yeah, no, happy to, he might even come up and take a look.
That would be great.
Yeah, because it's sort of like we're not showing up a lot of opportunities for downtown other than maintaining services and having good-looking buildings. And I think if you can, over time, create a cluster that's a more active, positive space, that's,
You know, maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I think if you had, you know, a place that had, I don't know how many veterans would be living there, but I think, you know, the more, create something like that, then maybe at some point, if there's a little confluence of a few things like that, you get enough where maybe a small grocery store, I mean, you know, maybe Tom Thumb over there is all they need, but, you know, I mean, maybe a little retail thing that would serve their needs might start to be able to survive. It's not,
Well, then a Stockman's makes it.
yes,
You know,
absolutely,
I mean,
yeah.
Yep, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
what
That
you
helps, yeah.
Absolutely.
How's he gonna do it? He's gotta spend $1 million to get the land.
Well, that's,
Or he could put the same veterans,
Well, that's where the VA would have to come in and help out,
all,
right.
gotcha.
right?
or you'd have to help with TIF
The
or,
TIF
Yeah.
redevelopment will do that.
yeah, TIF redevelopment and a small cities grant.
Yep,
Yeah, if you could get a small cities grant, knowing that that was a development, and if the grant would pay for the tear down part of it, and then you did a TIF on top of that, I mean, but you have to
That's
find
really
out,
good.
you have to find out, you know, what the possibility is, but.
And John did those kinds of deals in Carver County. He knows how to do them. So he's a good partner. He would be a very good partner.
And I never know what the legislature's gonna do from year to year, I mean,
You
the lead
don't.
people, the lead people talked about, there was a bunch of possibilities, you know, but who knows if any of that'll turn up, but, you know, seemed like there was different possibilities for funding for different things that were being talked about, but I don't know if any of those bills go anywhere.
yeah.
Yeah, I know housing is apparently a priority of Governor Walz.
We need that here too.
Yeah.
We do lack
Oh,
sufficient housing, I think.
And that, you know, part of me questions, like, is putting a veterans home in here gonna meet those needs? You
I don't know
think
if
it
it's
meets the needs of housing, but what else, it meets the needs of making your downtown maybe a little better looking. And maybe giving it some blighted things.
and some tax base.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's step one.
And I think that that's the problem, is just figuring out what can fit downtown. You know, I mean, we struggle with trying to figure out the vision for that. And, you know, it seems unlikely to me that the hospital is gonna do anything that's gonna be that far away from their campus. You know, I think what they're gonna do is gonna be on their existing campus. I think that's their plan. This other guy that came in had an idea that he might do something down here, but it seems like it's gonna be hard if the hospital doesn't.
Well, the
want
hospital
him.
already has all the dirt work. They own all the lots right in front of my building, but it's already dirt
Yeah.
that they already paid for.
Yeah.
So why would you expand where you got the dirt?
Well, and they've got another structure right next to it. It makes sense for them. No, I
I mean, if
understand.
there's a small state grant, things like that, I think getting the word out too, to people like this, John, or other people out there, that the city is, Painesville is willing to try to get you grant money, willing to work with you on TIF, willing to try and do something to help with the redevelopment of their downtown. And if you have a project that would fit in, go talk to them.
Yeah, and I, you know, if, I know AMP, it sounds like they've been very difficult to work with, but they are really important to the region.
Well, they're not difficult to work with, they just can't make a decision.
Well, but that makes them difficult to work with.
They're worse than government.
Well, they've got a bunch of farmers running their board.
Yeah, I mean,
And I think they,
Conservative farmers.
they're very conservative by nature, and they don't like to tell anybody what they're thinking about, you know, so it's hard to work with.
Because
It's
they
hard to
think
work
another
with.
cheese manufacturer's coming to Painesville?
Yeah. No, but if they're gonna expand,
they got the goat cheese in Richmond.
Well, maybe that's what they're
Or in
worried about. I'm
Rockville.
sure they're scared.
Their
of that.
competition.
It's like,
but
But
they just don't
It's
wanna
kind
tell
of
you,
like
you know, it
Painesville
seems like,
Beach.
it seems like they gotta have a long-range plan, but they don't wanna tell you what it is.
It's top secret.
Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, that was one of my concerns with this other developer downtown putting housing. The taxpayers put 1.5 million and rip all the buildings down and lose all the tax base. And then AMPI goes, well, thanks. We're gonna take that now and buy that from you so we can expand that because you've got it all cleaned up. You know?
It seems as though AMP, you know, and if you want to send me in to try and talk to AMP, I don't know that I'll do any good or it'll do any good, but maybe if you,
They'll tell you what you want to hear. That's what they're doing with the group from downtown.
And the guy over
Development.
there is not the guy who can make the answers.
okay,
You have to go to Newell.
Yeah.
okay,
That's where the corporate is.
okay.
So they're like a $2.2 billion a year company.
I grew up in Mankato.
I mean, so if you go over here and they can say something, right, but they can't make the decisions over here.
Right, yeah. No,
Is there money available for the hospital if they were gonna do a $40 million expansion that the
That's-
city could?
That's what they filed for some money.
Right, but nothing the city can do from their perspective.
Well, all we did, we gave a letter that we would support them and
Oh.
help them in whatever way. And, I mean, we've been working with them on Stearns Avenue there.
Is all their stuff going to be tax exempt or would some of it be taxable?
They haven't said.
so
I mean, they were under a TIF for, I don't know, how, 18, 20 years they had
20
TIF
years, was it?
for the hospital originally, so I'm sure,
Or was that even longer? Is that 30 years?
I thought it was 20.
When did Stearns go in? It was like 87, wasn't it? So that would have been 30 years.
Mhm.
Painesville has a good reputation right now with Centric Care as far as a community that's trying to work with them. They want access on 55, which really doesn't make sense.
Sure.
Renee's working with them, and that from the hierarchy, they're very respectful of Painesville. It's, the numbers still have to match when the time comes,
Sure.
but the fact that we're not fighting an uphill hill is a big deal in some of the communities they struggle with, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Another-
we have really made them a top
Another
priority.
draw to Painesville is, a lot of people forget this. You have to, we've got an ambulance service in Painesville,
Okay.
and you have to go, I think in Cold Spring, they might have a Gold Cross ambulance there. And otherwise you gotta go to Wilmer to get the next ambulance.
Or St. Cloud.
Yeah, or St. Cloud. So for a community our size, we got 2 ambulances that run the paramedics.
Pardon?
We got 2 ambulances that run the paramedics.
Okay.
For a town of 2,500 people.
Wow.
Rockville just lost theirs. Rockville just lost theirs. Well, their mayor was big on.
Well, Watkins has one, but they can't administer drugs, so they transport you to Cold Spring and then swap out to Gold Cross so they can administer pain meds.
Yeah,
That's what
so
they had to do with
that's a
Mark.
huge draw on that one.
That's-
Because they're talking-
That's what they had to do with Mark. They had,
Especially when they start taking the
Senior. Right.
our little kids.
Yeah.
We're just the same way.
Well, and manufacturers.
Yeah, because we got a helipad
You got a letter from your mom?
Yeah.
over at the we get lifelink stops there all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause
At
they
the
could give
airport
them
or at
market
the
trucks.
hospital?
No way.
They had to run them in Watkins ambulance, they had
At the
to
airport.
run them in his condition.
Yeah,
and
we have
they
an
Hook up with a Gold Cross paramedic in Cold Spring to start administering drugs.
If we were
Stop
going
the pain.
to look at veterans housing, would we want to also look at increasing some like the mental health facilities in case we were getting veterans with PTSD and issues like that?
Yeah, I
know
don't,
we have Four Seasons, but they might want to expand then.
yeah.
I mean,
And
most of
that,
that probably would go to the VA and St. Cloud for those types of, but they are doing, I mean, the VA is doing remote clinics in various places,
So
so.
those guys that build these things, they know all that, they know exactly what you need, and they'll have space for it, and they gotta, that's how they make their money. 'Cause they'll have a room for that and bring people in, and every time they bring to it, they get paid big bucks. So I mean, they don't make a lot of money better than room. It's by their administering the drugs, it's by having the people come in and do the PTSD stuff, it's all that, that's where the big bucks come into play.
We just want to make sure if they're coming to town that we are equipped to take care of them.
Sure.
so.
sure. And that you make the most of the possibility of related services.
Okay.
I mean, if we could get with that some kind of remote clinic, that would be
Right.
Sure.
amazing.
Or even something that benefits Centricare and make you even more popular with Centricare.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they had the veteran services that comes out to the Legion, but they could just come here.
See what John says and then
Yeah,
get back to us and
Yeah.
what we gotta try to impress them with. And
Great. Always fun to call an old friend. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years.
so which side of the street would you start on? The plaza or the other side?
Oh.
Yeah,
You know, the plaza,
could be restored.
pardon? I mean,
Don't
that,
you- don't you run into big problems if you're taking out all that affordable housing?
oh, yeah,
We can do the
the
relocation.
relocation of people is really
Well,
tough.
my whole problem is, we don't have any housing. Well, let's rip down the housing we have then.
Right,
That doesn't
right.
make any sense to me.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't care if it's an eyesore right now, unless you have someplace to put them, you just,
the politics of it are really tough.
in the
Of,
I agree.
The only way you can do it is if Chris bought it, then he can kick everybody out, and nobody really cared. But if the city bought it
Oh, yeah.
and try to kick everybody out, then the world's gonna end.
But would you have to kick them out? Because you just,
you can,
could you
they go on
Could you
month-to-month leases and
could
then you.
rehab it so that it's not such a eyesore?
I don't know housing law well enough to know about acquisition of property and dislocation of people, but that's,
If you're in Section 8 housing,
is that Section 8?
or,
It is, it's just not.
It's just not certified.
It's subsection 8.
they get paid back.
Subsection.
Yeah, I mean, they rent their apartments for
Is there an
$350
element
a month.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's,
That's right.
but it's not.
But they get reimbursed by the government for the housing over there. In the plaza.
Well, absolutely.
Do they?
Yeah.
From,
That's worth more.
From the government, I know that, because some of them are only paying $100 a month, and then the rest of their money's coming from a check from county.
so that might be a voucher thing.
Yeah.
Convention insurance.
And so if it's that way, you have to be real close.
Yes.
You gotta pretty much let anybody in there. There's a line that really, really.
I don't know housing law.
I'll check into
If you
that.
try to
See.
remodel, you're
I mean, really, if we were going to, we have to start
It is.
with that demographic in mind, so that those people can get relocated. Then we can renovate the plaza and work on more market-rate things, would be my idea. If we wanted to redo the plaza, we'd have to rehome the people who currently live there.
Renovate the plaza, it'd be cheaper to build a new one.
It very well could be. Yep.
Mhm.
That'd be good. You spend.
I got a feeling that once you looked at once you started taking things apart, the things you'd have to do to bring that building up to code, I just imagine it'd be so expensive to do.
Mhm.
It does those.
That's why no one's done it.
Right. It's,
They touch anything and you'd have to put an elevator in.
It's just-
bathroom.
it is truly amazing it hasn't burned
And then
down.
I'm sure the fire escapes are.
Sounds like it's sprinkled.
It is sprinkled.
Yeah, it has a brand new sprinkler system.
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
Grounding had to sprinkle it before he could sell it.
well, that's not brand new. then.
That
Dave's
wasn't,
been
that
gone a
wasn't
while.
very good thinking.
I can't believe Dave didn't burn it down.
You should see how it's put in there.
Dave probably put it himself.
Bust holes in the walls and run the pipes through.
Well,
that's what
I'll
it
be
is.
seeing you again
All right.
in the next, I would guess 3 to 4 weeks, something like that? 2 to 4 weeks?
If John comes down from the cities on Highway 23, just give him the directions that comes into Painesville, that he takes a right at the first stoplight. And if he gets to the second stoplight, he went too far. He's a rover.